Here's your intrepid correspondent coming to you from Australia on Sunday. Okay, so we're going to look at the Yeti in July, but again, a sterling week for the Yeti. He covered himself in glory in Arizona, did he not? I mean, what can you say about this man? Claiming that the wall is preventing COVID from getting into Arizona, proving that he's not only a cretin and a fascist, but a biohazard. I mean, he should not be allowed out in public. He really shouldn't. And speaking of the wall, there was a win in the courts this week that the money he stole that was okayed by Congress to go to the Pentagon that he took for the wall. What did he do with that money? There's some dispute. It's between 1 billion and 2 billion. What did he do with that money? Well, he has built 3 miles of wall. 1, 2, 3. All the rest is repair and maintenance. You know. So he blathers on, you know, in this hopeless fashion. So just remember, Americans, now he's looking like he's crumbling. It's really important people don't think, oh, it's so obvious, I don't have to vote because everyone else is going to vote him out. Vote, 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 vote. Help other people to vote. You know. So here we go with the Yeti in July. Let's go. So we have week 1. Oh, we're going to get some more wins. He isn't. Week 3. Week 4. Oh, okay. All right then. So straight off the bat in week 1, justice is coming down on his tired and flabby buttocks. Justice, again. There was also a ruling. My first digression, viewers, were only on the first card. There was another ruling during the week that the children must be released from detention by a federal judge. Now, long overdue, second only perhaps to Australia, we have an appalling record of children in detention. That's not only Aboriginal minors who are put in for relatively trivial offences into heavy facilities, but also asylum seekers. We have been doing offshore detention where people are taken to obscure islands and incarcerated, and journalists can't get in, politicians can't get in, doctors are pleading to get in. And it took us 10 years to get those children out of detention. So justice is coming in all sorts of ways. Right. Now, the Ace of Cups, this is interesting. It can often be a card of hugely positive emotions. This is unlikely to be occurring in week 1 of July for the Yeti. So it tends to be the other interpretation, which is too gushy. Too gushy. So everyone in his sphere is trying to get him to change tack. What is he going to tell the voters? This is my second digression, viewers. I've given you 3 miles of wall and I'm just about to take Obamacare away and pre-existing conditions. Vote for me. What on earth is he going to tell them? So there's a fakeness here, and I think he's going to try and pretend to care. Oh, the mind boggles. Ooh, yuck. Okay, now the Lover's card. Is he getting a new girlfriend? I don't think so. I think this is speaking to something else. I think it's speaking to other alliances, right? The Lovers is alliances, pacts, treaties, contracts, this sort of thing. I think we're going to see an alliance, possibly from some disenchanted Republicans and the Dems. You even had boring old Chuck Grassley saying there needs to be an intervention in the White House. I think this wall of solidarity is broken down. I think we're going to see a new alliance come to light in the first week of July. Now, week 2, Page of Pentacles, a message about money. Now, any message involving Donald Trump and money is about money he has diverted or stolen or whatever. He hasn't earned a dollar in his life. I stand by that statement. He inherited hundreds of millions and repeatedly lost it. So what is happening here with money? I think it could be a connection with Russia. And we've just had this week the revelation by the New York Times that Putin has paid basically bounties on US heads in Afghanistan. And I think it's going to be news about that. His health, I think, is going to take a dive in week 2. If you look at the Four of Swords, it can be the card of retreat, looking at your inner self, looking for higher learning. He's not a candidate for any of that. So it's more likely to be the Four of Swords, which is if he stands up, he's going to be stabbed by 3 swords in the head, the chest, and the gut. So I don't think this bodes well for week 2. Still in week 2, the Seven of Wands, he's going to feel like this, that he's the only guy on the hill and he has to fight everybody, you know, just terrible. Week 3, the Knight of Wands. Now, this is my cautious knight card. So I think this is speaking to, see how the horse is being reined in? This is someone who manages somehow to rein him in. Okay. Week 3, a spy in the camp is going to be revealed. It's getting to the end of the month here. It could be the book by the niece, but I think it's other spies in the camp. I think there are still some people who care, and a surprising one. The point about this is there's some element of surprise for all of us who it is that betrays him in week 3. The World. So many things about the World card. It's the end of a whole cycle, major cycle. It could be the end of his cycle of success. Love it to be that. But it also speaks to the world, and the world is watching. In week 3, the world will be watching acutely what is happening. The third aspect to the world is, to me, it speaks of other ethnicities. It's not just an Anglo world. Anglos are, in fact, the minority in the world. This is other races, ethnicities, cultures. This is other ways of thinking and being. This is diversity and tolerance, in this case being challenged by the Yeti. It might mean that some of the conservative Hispanic vote finally goes against him or something like that. Week 4, he's in revenge mode. He's jealous, he's impulsive, he can't, remember, this is the beginning of week 3, someone reining him in. It doesn't last a week. No, by the end of the week, in the beginning of the next week, he's out there charging into the teeth of the storm. This is fateful, right? This is fateful. And it's the card of karma, destiny, fate, all those things. The wheel has turned by week 4, not in a good way for Trump, because the sun is shining on his nefarious dealings. Now, I want to look at the astrological influences here. Don't forget, week 1 contains July 4th. This is not the year to be out in public celebrating or protesting. do not go out on July 4th. Please, intrepid viewers, promise your auntie, don't go out. There's lots of obvious reasons. You don't have to be a psychic to know it's going to attract, with the monument stuff and everything else, it's going to attract the mad militias and all that stuff. Do not go out on July 4th. It's an eclipse, and I want to see how it's going to affect the Yeti. So let's have a look. Uranus, the Sun, Neptune, Jupiter. All right, now, week 1. I'll just hold them up, it's easier. Uranus. Uranus bodes sudden, massive, erratic, unpredictable stuff, right? Exactly as I was saying, look out. It's going to be extremely volatile, and this is his reading still. For him, he's going to be even more erratic and outrageous. Okay. In week 2, you have the Sun, and that falls over his health card. So I think he's going to recover from whatever it is in week 2. I'll try and hide my disappointment. But there you have it. It's also the Sun, as we just had before, in the other part of the deck, which is shining on things. As each incarnation goes on and every new case of his appalling behaviour is unveiled, it's going to be revealed piece by piece. Neptune, coming up next. Neptune, god of the deep, god of all that ocean energy and stuff. This could be flooding in week 3 and tempest and all those major natural things, which he will handle spectacularly badly. Could be that. It's also a card of good fortune. So I think loss of life will be minimised if this is the case. And he'll manage to limp through. The 4th week, we have Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's not happy. Normally a good luck card to a certain extent, but there's a wrath coming down. I'm getting a volatility from these cards in terms of what I keep harping on about. Be very careful. If you live in a cyclone area, a fire area, a flooding area, have your evacuation plan in place. Have the car full of petrol. Have your mobile phone chargers ready. Oh, here comes the bow wow. It's like having a bison arrive. Look, Lola. Okay, now, this is going to actually play havoc with him by week 4. Okay, so, oh, I had another card stuck with my Sun card from before. It's my GOP card. See, pretend, happy families, little house on the prairie. Yeah, right. Sun being shone on that. I think the evangelicals individually are starting to get really worried. They've spun this line continuously to each other that even though he's a sinner and he's a flawed being, he's going to give us all these conservative judges for a generation. But I saw a really interesting interview with an ex-evangelical pastor. And he said a couple of things. One of the things he said in relation to that was, there's a passage in the Bible that says, words to the effect, you could have all the riches of the world, but they're not worth anything if you trade your soul. So essentially they're trading their values and their soul for this man. But what he said, which was very revealing, was he was told when he was a young reverend starting out with this prosperity gospel sort of distortion of Christianity. And he said the senior guys came to him and said, more fear, more anger, make them afraid, make them angry. and then they'll give you more money. Now, isn't that revealing? How hideous is that? Now, before I go, I have to touch on North Korea. A lot of you have been requesting to know, because as we've suspected, even though I said Kim Jong-un would survive, you know, that latest thing, he's not the same, he's not well, he's not there, you know, weekend at Bernie's, North Korea style, right? So the sister has taken over. And the problem with that, like all women in patriarchal societies, they feel compelled to be worse than the men to prove a point. And I think she's particularly awful. So let's have a look at what's happening with North Korea and the sister. Yeah. And I'll have a, no, I'll save Russia for my next video, I think. So let's stay on North Korea. North Korea. Mm. Mm. Swords, 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 and dark money. Ooh, yucky poo. And it's the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is the winning at any cost. That's her. And if you look at the imagery on this card, right, it's someone, these guys have all fought together. They've won because they've got the swords of the people they've killed. But the others have thrown down their swords and walking away because they're so disgusted with the leader. This is interesting. Theft, 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 and what you can get away with. She's doing all that. Ace of Swords, right, with the slightly wilted leaves cutting through. So I put North Korea here, and the final card is dark money. I would say what's happening here is the generals are using her for now, keep the dynasty intact and we can control. So they're letting her be the national head. She doesn't trust them. She's going to try and mess about with them. But I think they are not going to tolerate it. And so I think North Korea is not going to change in 5 minutes, but the change is inevitable. And I think she, in her reign, which has started now, really, let's not pretend, she's going to be so bad that it will lead to the end of that dynasty and that regime, the poor things. So with that, my big fear with North Korea, like so many nuclear countries, is not so much a nuclear attack as a nuclear accident. They're ripe for a nuclear accident. The UK has always had problems with its nuclear power stations. France is 80% nuclear powered or something. Can some French viewers let me know? France is dependent to a huge extent anyway on nuclear power. And one of the problems with that is the reactors have a life of 30 to 40 years, 50 max. Theirs were installed in the 50s. They're defunct, and countries don't decommission them and even rebuild new reactors because it costs so much money. So they always try and milk it for another 20 or 30 years. So I think there'll be another nuclear accident. North Korea, Russia, could even be France, right? So stay safe, look after yourselves. Please make sure you look after yourself. Okay, so keep the comments rolling. I want to know everything you're thinking. I love you guys. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao.